For decades now, longer really, the religious have claimed that Western civilization is based on Judeo-Christian values. More recently, this assertion has been made by the likes of the intellectual darling of the dark web, Jordan Peterson, my old buddy, Dennis Prager, Mr. My Feelings Don't Care About the Facts, Ben Shapiro, and other right-wing... It says nut bars on the prompter, but I don't want to go there. Here on YouTube, a quick search will find you numerous videos debunking the claim that Western civilization is based on Judeo-Christian values. Atheists, secularists, freethinkers, skeptics, secularists. Even Big Bird has made a video pushing back against this frequent assertion. That's not true. And in every single video I've watched on the topic, these folks have all made the same mistake, claiming that Western civilization is not based on Judeo-Christian values. What are they thinking? Western civilization is absolutely based on Judeo-Christian values. Secularists and atheists like myself need to admit that right up front. There is no denying it. Not if you know your history and you can follow the evidence. Slavery, for instance, is a Judeo-Christian value. The tribal war god of Abraham approved of it and even gave instructions on how to make the barbaric practice just ever so slightly less barbaric. Something Dennis Prager might point to as a quantum leap in moral thinking. Because all-knowing, all-loving, transcendent beings also further moral progress very slowly and incrementally, just like humans. We all know that. The Christian Bible likewise suggests nothing in terms of a prohibition, instead telling slaves to obey their masters. And thus the value of slavery, treating other human beings as property, became a moral value of Western civilization, just like misogyny, where more specifically women are treated like property. According to the not-so-good book, young girls are allowed to be sold off by their fathers. Their sexual activity is punished, whether actual or not, with a sudden and very stony death. The rape of female prisoners of war is also allowed, but only after a 30-day waiting period and an offer of marriage from the rapist, which Dennis Prager literally suggested was a great moral advance in Western civilization. And of course, let's not forget the Christians who thought it an absolute horror to be subjected in the most hellish of ways to simply hearing the voice of a woman in church. The Catholic Church, who many religious folks will tell you built Western civilization, still will not ordain women or allow them to hold leadership positions. The misogyny we've seen in the West, where women in America were only given the right to vote 100 years ago, is and always has been a Judeo-Christian value. Which is why Catholic Supreme Court Justice Amy Rona Barrett will likely soon be sending American women back to a time when Christianity dominated this country and the West more generally. Totalitarianism is another Judeo-Christian value embraced by Western civilization. The Bible makes it unequivocally clear that we cannot, under any circumstances, have people worshiping whatever god they want. Nor should people be allowed to think for themselves and speak freely, advocating ideas which are not approved by religious authorities. The Cathars, Giuseppe Bruno, and Galileo all learned that the hard way, along with millions of others. And forget your right to any kind of privacy or freedom from unwarranted searches and seizures. The Catholic Church, who again we're told built Western civilization, would have none of that. Nor would we have prohibitions against cruel and unusual punishment, which the Holy Roman Empire damned near perfected. Which brings me to our next value. Violence is a Judeo-Christian value embraced by Western civilization. Violence is to the tribal war god of Abraham what bronzer is to President Trump, an absolutely hideous necessity. Got a problem? Fix it with violence. Whether it's misbehaving people who God failed by not giving them the necessary moral instruction needed, as Dennis Prager has pointed out, or it's just people living on the land that you want to give to your people. The only solution is violence. In fact, the tribal war god of Abraham loves violence so much, he's going to have his gentle Jesus use violence in the form of that cruel and unusual punishment thing we just talked about on people forever and ever. He's a lover, not a fighter. The Judeo-Christian worldview dominated the West for more than 1,000 years, and during that time gave us none of the values the thinkers of the Enlightenment gave us. Those values we embrace now in the West. The values many in the Judeo-Christian West opposed at every turn. Some still do. Democracy, freedom to worship and assemble, the free press, sexual liberation, the right to privacy, due process, freedom of expression. None of these values were present when the West was controlled almost entirely by those embracing a Judeo-Christian worldview. Yes, Judeo-Christian values built the West of the Holy Roman Empire. That's why it was so holy, obviously. But it's also why we should all thank Hitch for those Enlightenment thinkers who gave us the values we have all mostly come to embrace in the secular West. Now make sure you head on over to my Patreon page to support more videos like this while I hand things off to the next video in your autoplay queue. Hopefully it's one of mine. And thanks for watching.